My name is Peter Bryant. I'm one of the directors of a non-governmental organisation called Shared Future. So Shared Future was formed about 15 years ago, and our reason for existence is that we believe that citizens, members of the public, have the right to be able to influence the policies that affect them in their neighbourhoods and communities. And we do this through a range of different approaches, including deliberative approaches like assemblies and juries, and also participatory budgeting, where citizens decide for themselves how money is spent, how public money is spent. So there are many essential ingredients for a successful participatory process. I guess these include the need for a very clear remit. So what is it that needs to be talked about? And citizens can be involved in deciding that themselves if it is truly participatory. There needs to be sufficient resources, because these things take a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of people power, and a lot of money often. So we need to make sure that they're sufficiently resourced to be of a high enough quality. We need to make sure that there's diversity. So often these spaces are dominated by certain groups of people. They're dominated by people like myself, white, older males with more time on their hands than others. And we need to make sure that these participatory spaces don't replicate that. And finally, we need to make sure that it's very clear about how a participatory process has the potential to impact on decision making. So it's absolutely essential that citizens are involved in decision making and policies around climate change related issues, because we are facing a complete upheaval and change to the way that we operate in society. And so to be able to make those changes and for people to be able to feel that those are necessary changes, then it's essential that citizens are at the core and have a voice. We can't be changing society from top down. We need to make sure that especially those who are already being heavily impacted by climate change are driving the policies that we need. So I think the question is more, why would we not? How can we not involve citizens and make them the centre of policies that we need to tackle this emergency? So there are so many different forms of democratic innovation that can be used to try to address climate change and climate change policy making. So we have citizens' juries, which are randomly selected, diverse group of citizens, a mini version of the wider public. We have slightly larger numbers that form citizens' assemblies. We have legislative theatre, where citizens can be involved in using different creative techniques to have their voices heard on this topic. We have participatory budgeting, which is all about citizens spending, deciding how money is actually to be spent on addressing the emergency. But I think that the form is less relevant as to what the answer to the question is, which of these forms might be appropriate for the situation that is unique for every single community. So first of all, we need to understand our communities, where we're trying to get to, what the remit is, and then identify the tools or the forms or the combination of tools that will best do the job. Yeah, so young people's involvement in participatory process around climate change is absolutely essential, but I don't think there's many people that are doing this particularly well. So if we think about citizens' juries and citizens' assemblies, young people are usually included within the selection, so they are in the room. But if they're in the room, it doesn't necessarily mean that their voices are being heard. So it may mean that we need to go out of our way to create different, safer, more appealing spaces for young people, and then for them to be able to input into a participatory process in a different way. Also, we need to make sure that in the design of these processes that young people are at the centre and able to say what they think these processes should be like to be able to engage them successfully. So as citizens, as members of the public, we need to force our governments and push for our governments at a local and a national level to make sure that the spaces are there for our voices to be heard. And if we are able to access those spaces, we need to take those seriously, and we need to make sure that those spaces are inclusive and vibrant and able to influence decision makers. So my plea to citizens is to try to engage, and I understand the levels of distrust, but try to engage with our politicians to prove to them and demand of them that we need these spaces where we are able to talk and decide and influence policy ourselves.